Hi, this is Dave with Edgestar Technical Support. Today we're going to be talking about the Coldfront KF430 Portable Fridge Freezer. We're going to show you setup, what comes in the box, and how to work the unit. Alright, here we have the KF430 Coldfront Portable Fridge Freezer. First thing I want to do is show you what comes in the box and the accessories that are with it, and then we'll get into some of the features and how to operate the unit. There's other videos out on Edgestar about the Portable Fridge Freezer series from Edgestar. This is a brand new one for Coldfront, and this one really is a simplified version of those coolers. There's not a lot to operate here, virtually no maintenance other than just wiping it down. So we'll get into that, and this will be pretty short and sweet. So what we're going to do here first is show you what comes in the box. Of course, when you unpack the unit, you have the unit itself, and inside you only have one basket. And this basket is a small one. The other ones have a double basket. They have a bigger basket that goes inside in conjunction with this one, but on this unit, this is the only basket that the unit has. So in there you'll find your owner's manual. You have your DC power cord for 12-volt use, and we have our AC power cord for regular AC use, and of course the basket itself. So what I'm going to do now is show you the inside of the unit, and I want to show you that inside the unit here, right, we'll start at the top and work our way down. We have a really nice gasket here. This provides a great sealing surface. We have a really good insulated lid in here. There's actually expandable foam behind this plastic plate, and the plate itself keeps the lid from being damaged by anything that might be in the cooler. So, and here holding this lid here as well is a retaining strap, so that we don't force the lid back too far, because if we do, we could potentially damage those hinges back here. These hinges are made of plastic. And inside this unit, we have an aluminum skin. It's just like your typical deep freezer. It's the same kind of material, basically the same thickness, and the insulation on this thing is pretty thick. As you can see, I've got a good inch to inch and a half of thickness there. The vast majority of that is foam insulation, so this unit will keep things for quite a while. Should the power be interrupted, you could probably get 2 to 3 hours out of your food in here with that before it rises up to a dangerous temperature. So it's really nice for long trips, and again, it doesn't need to be consistently hooked up to power. It'll hold the cold on its own for quite a while. So let me see if I can tilt this over a little bit. I'll give you a view of the inside of the unit. And as you can see, that's just an aluminum skin. You have to be careful when you put things in here that have sharp edges, because you can dent and actually tear the aluminum skin if you're not careful. So just be mindful about what you're putting in here, that the objects aren't really heavy, and that you have a good distribution through the unit, so that way when you pick it up, you're not having more weight on one side than the other. So spreading out your weight of your food here is important. So let's talk about what is on the outside of the unit, and then we'll get into the controls on it. And again, while I'm doing this, I want to talk about power. Power is very important with this unit. It does run off AC and DC. And what I'm going to show you here is actually the side of the unit. Now, on the other freezer fridges that we have that are portable, normally we'd have a digital display here with the fast freeze, your set buttons, and your digital readout as to what the temperature is inside the unit. This unit does not have those features. It has a regular rotary thermostat. Once we get down so far, it goes into freezing range all the way through the end of its travel. So what you're going to need to do is invest in a thermometer that can measure freezer temperatures and refrigerator temperatures as well, to help monitor the temperature inside of here, because again, we don't have that digital readout. So other than that, this unit is exactly the same as the Edgestar 430. That one is identical to this one, other than the thermostatic control. The handles here are the same, and I would advise you probably to try to unload the unit as much as possible before you actually move it, because what has happened in the past, when we overload the unit, we have trouble with the handles. So make sure that you try to unload at least some of your stuff out of there before you move it any long distance. If you're just moving it a short distance from the vehicle to, say, the campsite or wherever you have this unit, that's fine. But if you're going to move it any length of space, try to unload it somewhat to take the stress off of these handles. Down in here, the controls and the electronics inside are identical to the EdgeStar unit. There is no difference. Again, the only difference is the thermostat that's being used here. So, and while we're talking about it, let's talk a little bit about clearances. Clearances are very important with this unit. We need to make sure that this vent, which feeds the compressor, because what happens is the airflow goes in and comes out this front vent. We need to make sure that we have at least 10 to 12 inches of clearance between this and any other obstruction. So this has to be kept clean. You just vacuum it off with a vacuum brush every once in a while just to make sure you keep everything out of there, and do the same with this vent on the front of it. Now let me turn this back around again. And so you have this vent, and that's very important to keep that one clean as well. And again, we're just going to take a vacuum with a brush attachment and go in there and just clean it up. So, and that's really all the maintenance that you need to do, other than wiping the unit, wiping the exterior surfaces of the unit, and then wiping the inside. I would use like a mild detergent just to wipe off the inside and then dry it really well, and that should take care of anything in there. And by the way, when you're storing the unit long term, make sure that you kind of open up the lid a little bit, and you're going to place an object in there, a wood block or some other similar object, just to hold the lid open. That way the air has a chance to circulate, and we don't have any odors or any mold that gets set in here, because if we do that, then we're really going to have to scrub it out. So if you just leave it open a little bit during the times that you're not using it like that, you'll be just fine. And of course, here on the front, we have our lid latch, and that's a positive lock. I really like that. You're not going to pull that open. I don't think Godzilla could pull that open with that lid attached. There is no lock, folks. This is not a locking unit. We don't want you drilling any holes in there to mount a lock. I know that might be tempting, but our coils actually wrap around this unit just like on a regular deep freezer. So we don't have much room in there before we start hitting those coils. And besides, this sheet metal is pretty thin, and there's not enough to hold any screws that you would drive in there anyway. So all of these are in there with special fasteners to hold them in place so that they don't come out. So you just have your lid latch here on the front. And on the back of the unit, that's very important too. Let me turn that around and I'll show that to you. And the reason that it's so important back here, as like every other product that we have an informational label back here, and we also have our model number and serial number back here. Please, I can't stress it enough, write it in your owner's manual, somewhere it's convenient for you. That way when you're away from the unit and you have a question about it, and you need to call customer service, then you have that information at your fingertips. So just write it in your manual and you'll always have it there. And we have another vent back here as well. The same rules apply for this one, and that gives the airflow from our condenser coil so that it can come out and breathe. So make sure that this thing has at least 10 to 20 inches of clearance around everything. We'd prefer it to be in open air. That would be best. But make sure that none of these three vents are obstructed at any time. Alright, so let's talk about a couple of other things here, namely the thermostat and your power cords. And you might ask, well, why do I have both power cords plugged in? Well, the truth is that you can run this unit off of both power sources at once. So the AC is always primary. If AC fails, DC becomes a primary mode of power at that point. Make sure that if you have both of them plugged in, that they're both securely connected. And by the way, they're keyed. They only fit one way. So don't try and force it if they don't. And they just plug in just like that. However, they're keyed. This one has a third prong. So you need to orientate it correctly and make sure it goes in. And this one, your DC cord, has a keyed connector, so it only fits one way. So one side's flat, one side's round. So make sure when you plug these in that you're able to match those up so that they plug in. Now, on the DC side, you need to have a circuit in your vehicle that's capable of carrying at least 10 amps. Minimum. Most of the time in most modern vehicles that wiring is pretty thin. So, you need to check with your owner's manual, see what circuit supplies what. If you have an accessory power outlet in the back of your SUV or pickup truck, you need to make sure that that circuit's capable of carrying at least 10 amps. If it's not, you're going to need to get somebody to help you retrofit a plug with separate wiring so that it's able to carry 10 amps. That you're going to have to go to your local RV dealer or car dealership and get them to assist you with that problem. But you need to make sure that that circuit is capable of carrying that much energy. AC, of course, standard 115 volts, 60 hertz at approximately 10 to 12 amps. That's what our circuits generally provide. Standard wall outlet's about 15 amps. So you need to make sure that your power supply is sufficient for both sources. If you can do that, you're home free. As far as the thermostat's concerned, again, this is a manual thermostat, so I wanted to kind of go over it with you just so you understand what's going on here. And if you look, there's a series of arrows, and they point towards the different sections. So we start this unit out on freeze mode. So where this thermostat dial is right now, we'd be pretty well maxed out at about -8. So the unit has a temperature range of -8 to 50 degrees. So what we would do from here, basically over to here, on the other side of the word freezer, is freezer mode. Everything beyond the word freezer up to the word cooler is all cooler mode. So typically, most of the time, if you're just cooling drinks, you're going to be somewhere in this zone, somewhere where this red arrow is. And if you want to freeze, you're going to be somewhere between this red arrow and the end of the word freezer. So again, you're going to have to monitor your temperatures to make sure it is where you want it to be, and you may have to fine-tune it from time to time to get exactly the temperature that you want. But if you put this in a vehicle, just remember, we were talking earlier about spacing and about air clearance. Make sure that you have this unit located in your vehicle in a place where none of these vents, including the one on the back there, are obstructed. I hope that this do-it-yourself video has helped you to set up and maintain your new Cold Front KF430 portable fridge freezer. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact EdgeStar at www.edgestar.com.